Good evening. My name is Joan Woodard. I'm the hearing examiner this evening. The purpose of this hearing is to allow me to receive evidence and testimony on the matters that are pending. I make a recommendation only to the county commissioners. I do not make the final decision. I will be submitting my recommendation to staff within 2 weeks of this evening's hearing. The application will then be scheduled for deliberations before the county commissioners. If you wish to give testimony, I need you to fill out one of the sheets in the back, and when you come to the podium, please give us your name and address for the record before you begin your testimony. First, staff will introduce the application. Then we will hear from the applicant. After the applicant's testimony, we will then get into the public comment sheets. We will hear from those who are in favor, those who are neutral, and then those who are opposed. The public not speaking will be read into the record. We will then give the applicant and/or their representative an opportunity for rebuttal of any testimony stated into the record from the public before we close the public hearing. After that point, we will receive no more testimony. The time limits are 30 minutes for the applicant's presentation, 5 minutes for public testimony, and 15 minutes for applicant rebuttal. I would ask that you direct all of your testimony to me and not to the audience. We also have Zoom, and those who are joining us via Zoom, if you can raise your hand when we ask for you to do so, we'll let you in and you can make your comments that way. Any questions? All right, then we'll begin with tonight's first case, which is case number ZON 20-0001.
Development. This is a request by the Everly Family Trust to rezone 220 acre parcels of land located on the Rathdrum Prairie from agriculture to rural. The subject parcels are located at the intersection of Clayton Avenue and Meyer Road. As you can see, based on the zoning map, the subject parcels are currently surrounded by parcels that are zoned agriculture as well. When staff originally met with the applicant, Wickman, to discuss the possibility of the request, we discussed the possibility of this rezone being perceived as spot zoning, and Mr. Wickman had asked for staff to review and analyze whether or not the proposal and the outcome of a subsequent subdivision would be perceived as such. After some discussion with staff and based on the current development in the area and the parcelization according to the assessor's map, we concluded that in fact this would not be a spot zoning. In a typical sense, a spot zoning is considered one of three different things. If a parcel is very small and it's singled out for a special privileged treatment. Second is the singling out is not in public interest, but maybe for the benefit of that sole individual. And thirdly is that the action is not in accord with the comprehensive plan. That being said, we concluded that because the area has been changing over the course of the years, and because of the parcels in the area are approximately 5 to 10 acres in size for the most part, as well as some large parcels that are currently used for agricultural purposes, such as the property to the west, that in fact the outcome of the rezone and a subsequent subdivision into parcels that are 5 acres or greater would not be an issue. In fact, it would not cause there to be any change in the development that has been prevalent over the course of the last decade or so on the aquifer, and that it would not be further subdivided or make the property more intensely used, because the rural zoning allows for parcels to be only or no less than 5 acres, and being that the property is over the aquifer, the health district has strict regulations for septic discharge and would not allow for further subdivision if that was allowed under the zoning standards. The comprehensive plan designation is transitional, and transitional designation does allow for divisions of land into parcels that are further out from the city limits. It does allow for low density residential development. The subject property is located within the shared tier of City of Hayden, City of Post Falls, and City of Radford. Pursuant to the ACI agreement in Kootenai County Code under section 10.7, we did solicit comments from these cities through the agency comment period. Based on a review of the photos, as you can see, these photos were taken from the adjoining public rights of ways, and this has actually been used historically for farming pursuits. But as I said, the conditions in the area have changed, and the desire now is to be able to potentially create parcels that are 5 acres or greater. So through the agency comment period, we received practically no concerns from any of the listed agencies on your screen. One of the comments that was posed by the city of Hayden was that if and in the future the property is annexed, that some development or some dedication and improvements would be necessary. And one of the things that we know is that we cannot enforce any of the suggested recommendations through the zone change because there are no conditions placed on a zone change order decision. In some rare cases, we do require a zoning development agreement that would put sideboards or limitations on the future use or the future zoning classification. However, in this case, we don't feel it's necessary. Through the agency comment period, we received a total of 4 comments, 1 neutral and 3 opposed. And the predominant concern is that folks do not want to see parcels being, large tracts being parcelized. But in fact, as I shown on the assessor's map, there are parcels in the area that are 5 and 10 acres in size in this neighborhood. So due to the surrounding area of low density residential development with homes on 5 to 10 acre parcels, the result of a subsequent subdivision request would be consistent and compatible with the existing conditions in the area. And for that reason, staff is not opposed to the applicant or to the application being approved. I stand for any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you, Vlad. I don't have questions right now. We'll hear from the applicant, Mr. Wickman. Please come.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'll take the mask off if that's all right. We can both understand me then. Good evening. My name is Rand Wickman. My address is 2992 East Gotham Bay Road, Harrison, Idaho. I'm happy to be here tonight representing the Eberly Family Trust in this zone change matter. My presentation tonight is quite brief. I think Vlad did a good job of summarizing the major issues there. I'm sure the hearing examiner has been out to the site, and as you can see from the map in the area, many of the parcels in the area are 5 acre parcels, other parcels are 10s, and my client merely wants to be able to subdivide that. In this case, I believe it's down to 2 5s and 1 10 is what they would like to do. I believe their intent is to leave the 20 acre parcel on the west side. Will probably stay as it is, but either way, the zone change would allow for all of them to be subdivided down to 5s, and so I don't want to misrepresent that. Plans change certainly, but that's the intent at this point. Vlad talked about the spot zone issue, so I won't go into that. The comprehensive plan is another one. There are numerous examples where the county has assigned the transitional designation to both the rural and the agricultural zones, and so it seems that that designation seems to apply equally to those zones. There are also examples, recent examples, by recent I mean within the last 5 to 10 years, of locations actually in this area, just off this map a little bit, but where the county has granted zone changes from ag to rural with that same transitional comp plan designation. And so I didn't bring you a lengthy list of those, but that is indeed the case. I did go through that myself just to see what the county has done on that issue in the past. And so other than that, the property is well suited to future subdivision down to 5-acre parcels. Access is good. The agencies don't have any concerns. Water is readily available because it's over the aquifer for drilling individual wells. Septic systems are easy. And the highway district didn't have any concerns for road congestion or traffic issues. Obviously, there will be right-of-way dedications and things like that as when the subdivision comes around. And so unless you have questions of me, I don't have anything else for you other than I did receive one comment on this that I'd like to submit for the record. And so it's a notice of public hearing and 3 lines of commentary, and I'll just give that to Catherine.
Thank you.
51,001.
And other than that, unless you have questions of me, I will take my seat.
Not at this time. Thank you. And now we'll move to public comment. The first one I have is Mike Andrews, who is in favor and does not wish to speak. Keith Larson is neutral, does not wish to speak. Sherry Rancier, and I apologize in advance for mangling names, opposed, wishes to speak.
Hey, my name is Sherry Rancier. My address is 5967 West Hayden Avenue, adjoining to the subdivision request for the property next to me. And although I understand the subdivision is inevitable, it's going to happen eventually. I think there is an issue with traffic flow on Hayden Avenue. I don't know how the transportation department can say otherwise. With the new school opening on Prairie Avenue, it's undecided how that's going to reroute traffic over to Hayden. Hayden has no traffic control for the 4 miles between the 4-way stop at Ramsey and Highway 41 stoplight. I had submitted also a written response to the County and Planning and Zoning Department, and I suggested that a review of the traffic accidents at Hayden and Hutter should be evaluated. There was another accident there within the last 5 days. And I expect without some kind of traffic control on Hayden Avenue, we're going to have the same thing occurring at Hayden and Meyer. And Meyer is only 1 mile from Highway 41. So I don't understand how you can have development and new houses going in within that 1 mile stretch with all this traffic that's being routed from Meyer onto Hayden. And so that's my main concern. So not that it will be subdivided, I just don't think now is the appropriate time until the assessment of traffic flow, assessment of accidents, and we see how the traffic is going to go on the new school on Prairie. The way it's set up now, the road to the school is not even finished, and they have a turn lane that's going to hold 5 cars. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Tim Ballas, opposed, wishes to speak.
My name's Tim Vallis. I live at 6659 West Orchard Avenue, Post Falls. This subdivision here is impacted terribly by traffic. The traffic on Meyer Road at Hayden Avenue on any given day at morning traffic or afternoon traffic will be backed up. Southbound traffic can be backed up north of Emmanuel, which is approximately 1/4 mile, and southbound south of Orchard, which is approximately 1/4 mile. At the same point, you have people trying to turn from east and west to go north and south, and there are accidents there weekly, and very serious accidents. I used to own a tow company, and so we responded there on regular basis. We still do. I'll be out in the yard or something, and you have to call 911 because there's a crash up there. I mean, this happens on a regular basis. The infrastructure for Meyer Road for traffic is just not there at this time. Once they put a stoplight in, if they put a stoplight in, it may change. The other problem I have with it is the impact over the aquifer as far as septic systems. Until they do something and get more septic, I mean, if they annex it into Post Falls or wherever, and they get a sewer system in there, that will help. But otherwise, you're just creating more impact for septic systems over the aquifer. And if they do approve it, I'd like to see them to restrict it to 10 acres at the least. It's just the roads, between the roads and the sewers and everything is just too much going on out there at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Compton, opposed, wishes to speak.
For the record, I'm Mike Compton. I reside at 9547 North Meyer Road, Post Falls. I'm against the rezoning from agricultural to rural pertaining to this case for the following reasons. Kootenai County is experiencing a rapid growth and increased traffic in our area from the growth is a cause for concern due to lack of infrastructure. By adding more homes along both Meyer Road and Hayden Avenue, you're compounding a traffic problem that hasn't been addressed. I don't even know when the last traffic study was conducted in this area. The intersection of Hayden Avenue and Meyer Road is one of the most dangerous intersections in the county, and you can verify that through the sheriff's office. I've personally witnessed numerous accidents at that intersection, some severe, and I live right at that intersection. I've actually had vehicles roll onto my property, and as Tim was stating, it's almost weekly that we're having accidents there. Adding more homes to tap into Rathdrum Aquifer puts more stress on the water availability in the long term as the cities of Hayden, Rathdrum, and Post Falls continue to build numerous subdivisions. For those of us on wells, sooner or later this can become an issue, both with wells and with the septic systems. I know for a fact that on Tuesday evening, the city of Rathdrum voted to annex 256 acres just north of Hayden on Meyer Road, which has the potential for also having a subdivision. So this will also add to the traffic aspect of things. Finally, as the cities named above keep annexing the farmland around their borders, the people have been enjoying the agricultural lifestyle for years. And those moving to experience the beauty of the Idaho Panhandle see it becoming one big city and losing that lifestyle. Additionally, every time another home is built, it seems like our taxes are going up. It feels like we're rapidly turning into LA North. And I think the majority of us don't want to see that happen. And for these reasons, I'm against the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Dwayne Rasmussen, opposed, wishes to speak.
That's my understanding. We're addressing the issue of the one directly south of Hayden Avenue at this point.
This is the north of Hayden Avenue.
North of Hayden Avenue?
Yeah,
And I made a mistake.
it's,
I'm sorry, there was one that was just south of Hayden Avenue.
that will be next.
That'll be next?
Yeah.
Can you transfer my wishes on that?
Okay, all right. Okay, do we have any public testimony to be taken by Zoom?
No, Madam Hearing Examiner, it's only staff
All
on Zoom
right.
tonight.
Then, Mr. Wickman, would you like to provide rebuttal?
Just briefly, if I might, Madam Hearing Examiner, Rand Wickman again for the record. I think it's important to, the neighbors' concerns are noted here. As I said, the agencies that have jurisdiction and the expertise to review these matters have done so. They've not expressed any concerns. Again, for both septic systems and water availability, the property is considered to be among the better candidates in Kootenai County for subdivision. The Rathburn Prairie Aquifer is well suited for that. We are not to the point where we have contaminated our aquifer due to overdense septic systems and so on. And so with regard to traffic, again, the Highway District looked at this, did not have any concerns. I'm sure we will have that discussion in greater detail at a future subdivision. And I'm sure there will be dedications and potentially common driveway issues and shared approaches, those kinds of things that we'll be looking at to minimize the impact. But again, typically, 1, 2, 3 lots are typically considered to be not a significant impact on the local road network. And so I would ask that you recognize the expertise and the authority of the agencies with jurisdiction and look to their comments, and we request a favorable recommendation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have no questions. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the hearing on... I'm sorry? No. Sorry. Concludes the hearing for case number ZON 20-0001. Now we move on to case number ZON 20-0005.
For the record, once again, Black Bingo with Kootenai County. This is a request by Mr. Michael Andrews to rezone 2 10-acre parcels of land just south of the property that was heard in the previous request. It is located on the west side of Meyer Road, just south of the intersection of Hayden Road and Meyer Road. These 2 parcels of land are within a subdivision of subswept lots that was platted back in the 1990s under the Idaho Code plat, which at the time was one of the exempt processes in the state or in the county that did not require Kootenai County review. So this is just to set the stage of these platted parcels that are currently 10 acres each. As you can see, based on the zoning map, the subject property is surrounded with parcels that are zoned agriculture. However, there are parcels to the southeast that are 5 acres in size and are zoned rural. The same question did come up through the discussion with the applicant regarding the possibility of this request being considered a spot zone. For the same reasons as I stated in the previous application, These parcels are not small, they're the average size in the area, and therefore this would not be considered preferential treatment for the benefit of this individual. This is not singling out this property, and it wouldn't be considered to be not in the public interest or be an adverse impact to the neighborhood. And then the last one is whether or not this is not in accord with the comp plan, and we believe that it is in accord with the comp plan transitional zoning designation for the potential rezone and subdivision, which would create parcels that are 5 acres in size. The subject parcel is also located within the area of city impact within the sheer tier of cities of Post Falls, Hayden, and Raptor. These are the photos of the property in question along Meyer Road. As you can see, it's currently undeveloped on the south side of the of Orchard Road, and it has a large shop on the 10-acre parcel that's north of Orchard Road. We did solicit comments from the city agencies, and we got the same responses, pretty much no concerns with the city of Hayden stating that future dedications and improvements may be necessary should the property be annexed. We did receive a total of 8 comments in opposition of this request. A number of concerns, at least one of them was specifically to the fact that there was some sort of a provision or some sort of deed restriction placed on this property and surrounding properties that would prohibit it from being further subdivided, regardless of the zoning classification. I have completed, on behalf of community development, analysis of the original plat of Sunswept Estates, and then I also reviewed the CCNRs that are referenced on the face of plat, and then the subsequent CCNRs. The original CCNRs were drafted in 1996, and the subsequent CCNRs were drafted in 1997. I did not locate any restriction in that regard that would limit the ability for somebody to come back and subdivide the property. Those documents do talk about the specific uses, the architectural design, the garage size, the square footage of buildings, but there's nothing in any of those historical documents that would be a hindrance to the applicant pursuing this request. And for that reason and the other reasons that the proposal would create parcels, the proposal would allow the applicant to pursue a subsequent subdivision to create parcels of 5 acres in size with the low-density residential development in the area would be compatible and consistent with the historical use of land in the area, and therefore we don't see the request as standing out or posing an adverse impact to the area, and we recommend approval of the zone change. Moreover, because the zone change cannot be conditioned, a subsequent subdivision, should it come forward, the agencies that were listed in the zone change application will be asked to weigh in on the matters and the impacts associated with the request. The applicant at that time will be required to comply with the mitigation requirements and recommendations of those agencies. But keep in mind that is a separate process that is not under review of a zone change that's before you today. So we need to be very clear that these are 2 separate processes, and we shouldn't be mixing the components of review at tonight's hearing. I stand for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Vlad. I don't have any questions of you right now. I will hear from the applicant, Mr. Wickman again.
Thank you again, Madam Hearing Examiner. Rand Wickman for the record, 2992 East Gotham Bay Road, Harrison, Idaho. And I'm pleased to be here representing Michael Andrews in this zone change request. Again, I'll keep my remarks short. I think Vlad has done a good job summarizing the case. I'm also sure that the hearing examiner has gone out and seen the site and looked at the neighborhood. Again, we think this is a suitable location for this kind of infill development. You take advantage of these kinds of opportunities. We certainly are experiencing our share of growth and perhaps a little more than our fair share of growth these days. But we look to areas like this where you can accommodate a couple of additional parcels and a couple additional home sites. It's close in, it's well served by the infrastructure that's necessary for a 5-acre parcel. Again, the Highway District and the other agencies did not have any comments that caused any concern for this development or for future subdivision. We expect we'll have additional right-of-way dedication and review of approach locations and whether shared approaches are necessary. You know, we have not gone so far to evaluate whether future lots would actually access off of Orchard. I suspect that 2 perhaps would access off of Orchard, the same number that does now, and there'd probably be 2 approaches off of Meyer, would be how I would guess that would be done, at the far north or the far south. Again, the property owner may not choose to subdivide both parcels into 5s. We've had a little discussion about that, but again, I don't want to mislead anybody and tell you that it will never happen. It's certainly the zoning would allow for 5-acre parcels here. Again, I'd ask that you give some deference to the agencies with the experience and jurisdiction and the expertise. And unless you have questions of me, I think that's all I've got. I do have a statement from the owner and he wanted to address some of the concerns that had been submitted in the written comments, and so I'll submit that for the record. And I've also received 5 return notices on this one that are not yet in the record, and these are in support, so I will submit those as well if that's okay.
The owner's comments will be HE 1001, and the public comments will be HE 1002.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we'll take public comment. We had Mike Andrews, who in favor may wish to speak. Dwayne Rasmussen, opposed, wishes to speak. Come to the podium. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dwayne Rasmussen. I live at 886 East Dempsey Drive, Hayden, Idaho. I've had a lot of experience with this property. My brother lives on the privately held driveway that goes, I believe, just south of the land. That it's an extension, but not a public road. It's an extension of the road that's across to the east there. And it enters several lots, and to my knowledge, they are 10-acre lots, and I've driven that road many times because my brother lives there, and I've gone down to the end of the road where there's a little circular turnaround. Now, it's my understanding that that road is not possessed by the county, and as such, it is a very narrow road. And when you're going down a narrow road like that, it's only 1 lane. We're talking about putting in more people, more access to that road, and whenever you go down that road, you have to get clear off the road to be able to let a car pass coming the other direction. There are children at one of the houses. They play down there. I know that that would be west of the area that we're talking about. But as that fills up, putting something right there where we're talking about would encourage others to do the same thing, I assume. And it would make it more easy for that. And that road just isn't sufficient to handle that kind of traffic. So that means that these people who have relied on this information about it being limited to 10 acres, I was aware of that reliance years ago. Whether it's true or not, whether it's legal or not, we've got experts who are saying that, well, it doesn't apply and all that. I kind of get that you might have a two-stage thing, or if they find it in the records, but there were people that were relying on that. And so this could lead to more traffic. And if you have more traffic, that's going to lead to more expense, because they're going to have to widen that road. And if they widen that road, which is currently, I believe, privately owned, then there may or may not be access at that point. Everybody assumes, perhaps, that narrow little road is for the public, but it's not really. I don't know who's got the title for it. I know the taxes went bad for a while, and the county was going to repossess it, but then people got together and they paid the taxes because nobody thought they owned it. And so now I see a situation where we're going to do infill into there. I doubt the experts are looking at this. I've seen many experts. Usually it's somebody with an opinion more than 50 miles away. Seems like the experts are getting closer. I've dealt with some government in my lifetime, and I think that we should rely more on what the true experts have to say. That is, the people who drive the road every day, not the people who just go out there and buy a piece or a chunk of it and don't drive the road. I'm concerned about the infill. We do have traffic issues. I remember I stood out there and listened to a police officer try to sort out a traffic at just that intersection. It was a traffic accident. And that particular place, if you have a lot of people crossing or accessing Meyer Road from that little road there, you're going to have problems in the future. I've addressed that. There is real danger at that intersection where it crosses to go the east from that outlet of those properties there. And if it was all going on to Hayden Avenue, it might not be that big a deal. But I see future complications. I see future expense for the landowners. And
That was your signal that your 5 minutes are up.
thank you.
Thanks. Mike Compton, perhaps, opposed, wishes to speak. I think you wrote your last name very fast this time.
You need my name and address again, Madam?
Yes, please.
I'm Mike Compton, 9547 North Meyer Road, Post Falls. My statements are pretty much the same for this zoning as for the last, with one additional item. When Sunswept Estates was developed, those who bought the land there knew of the lot sizes and the covenants. To try and subdivide the subject lots kind of flies in the face of those who initially agreed to the lot sizes and covenants when they bought those lots. If Kootenai County allows this particular rezoning to move forward, They're violating the trust of the members of Sunswept Estates and setting a precedent that the county needs to come, or that the county needs to come before the residents of Sunswept. Additionally, Madam Examiner, I would request that as this goes forward, that you might submit to the county commissioners a request for a traffic study on Meyer Road concerning these. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tim Ballas, opposed, wishes to speak.
Tim Ballas, 6659 West Orchard Avenue. I also oppose this one, and more so on this because it directly affects me. Mike's property and mine border each other. We're friends, we're neighbors. We just see things differently on this particular thing. My thing is, as Dwayne mentioned earlier and Mike just mentioned, when the property owners out there bought that, we bought it recognizing we were getting 10 acres. My wife and I, it's been 47 years now, and we have worked our life to get the piece of property we want so that we can live there, and we've raised our grandkids, 4-H animals there. I mean, great neighbors. Couldn't ask for better neighbors anywhere, including Mike. I just don't want any more. We bought that specifically because we were getting 10 acres with the understanding, and I looked at all my covenants and everything, and I can't find it in the records. But I think if you'll ask anyone who lives out there, that they were under the understanding that these were 10 acres and they weren't going to be subdivided. Okay? As far as the highway district not having any problems with this, I think that's absolutely ludicrous. I'm a retired police officer. I see that traffic every day. I mean, they've raised the speed limit from 35 to 45. We're putting more traffic on there. The accidents out there, like I said, until they put a stoplight in at Hayden and Meyer, we're going to have more accidents. And fortunately, nobody's gotten killed there in the last year or so, but we've had some very serious accidents there. The other thing is, and I mentioned before, is the aquifer. Every time we take a 10-acre piece and subdivide it, we're doubling the amount of contaminants that could seep into the aquifer. And I think the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think they need to not only this one because it affects me, but the whole area from probably Hutter all the way to state line, north of Prairie and to Wyoming or wherever, until the cities gobble it up like they're doing. And that at one point was supposed to be a green zone for this type of, for rural people, so that you could have farm animals and raise some, crops. And they're just letting it get gobbled up, and we're losing that. Pretty soon we're not going to have a prairie left. And so, let's see. You're more wells, more sewers. And I think they do need to do a traffic study also, for that. But I think we need to look at Panhandle Health, because it's become apparent to me that there's a possibility that there's some problems with Panhandle Health thinking that 5 acres, we just keep doing 5-acre pieces. Is the prairie going to be able to protect the aquifer with that? Well, if we make it a 10-acre minimum, that's, half as many places on there to protect our aquifer. But, I think everybody on our road, and Stan, he moved out there, he bought 3 10-acre pieces so that he didn't have to worry about everything getting gobbled up and subdivided on us. I just hope that the Planning and Zoning looks at this and realizes there's more to the prairie life than just money. There's quality of life, and I think that's what we all want. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Larson is opposed, does not wish to speak. Stan Rasmussen, opposed, may wish to speak. No. Okay. Cindy Lotzen? Thank you. Lautzenheiser, opposed, Doesn't say whether you want to speak or not.
I'm going to speak for, I put one in.
Oh, okay. Get you in a minute then. Is it Sherm McKay? Sherry? Sorry. Opposed may wish to speak. I want to speak. Okay.
I live at 6672 West Orchard Avenue, and my property adjoins one of the properties of Mike Andrews. And I am fearful of extra people coming onto our road, because I do have little kids playing around there. And we do maintain the road ourselves. You know, I've been the neighbor supplying the gravel when we have to pull over. Tim and Mike and all the other neighbors plow in the wintertime, you know, so we can all get our kids to school. We have kids that go down to the school bus stop there at Meyer and Orchard there, and it's very dangerous. My son just got in an accident crossing Orchard to go over to my house. He was on the east side of Orchard crossing Meyer and T-boned a vehicle that he didn't see, wiped out all of our mailboxes, which and so it is a very dangerous area. My family's in the towing business as well, and that is a highly used road compared to when I moved there 20 years ago. The traffic is backed up like crazy. You can barely pull onto your road half the time. We got kids getting off the school bus, crossing those streets, and there's no monitoring, and who's going to maintain the road, who's going to widen the road. If you, in some of these parcels, how do you subdivide them into 5? Why should the corner pieces be allowed to have 2 5, you know, subdivide 20 acres into 5s when, you know, Mr. Rasmussen's property, how is he going to subdivide it? Look at how they're not square. So just the front piece gets the subdivide? That doesn't make much sense to me. And we did move out there knowing that we got 10 acres. And Jimmy Crow is the one who subdivided that. I've tried to get a hold of him. And his daughter and I went to school together, and he told me specifically that it was in the covenants that those would never be divided down. And he was the man who made that subdivision. So somebody should find something from him. And I don't think just because, you know, Mike Andrews has never come out there until this last year to even mow the property. Tim's been mowing it, you know, and so now all of a sudden you see him out there grooming it, and you're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden this happens. It's like, oh, and he wants to sell it. So he's never lived there. He's never been out there. He's never experienced what we do with our kids. I have kids, they ride, we have a big circular driveway. They're riding out on the road. My little grandson walks out on the road. All the neighbors watch out for everybody. You know, my little grandson goes over to Rasmussen's, you know, looks at the goats. You know, we go over to Tim's to look at the cows. We all moved out there for that reason, that we don't have to worry about our kids getting in the road and getting ran over, because we all know we have kids there. And we all watch out for them. We moved there for a reason. Mike moved there, unfortunately, to make a buck. And, you know, it's not all about the money. It's about family life, and that's why we're there. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Daniel Lautzenheiser. Oh, opposed, wishes to speak.
All right, Dan Lautzenheiser, 7125 West Orchard Avenue, Post Falls, Idaho. I live at the end of this road, and I moved out there 9 years ago. Specifically, I grew up on acreage, and I was doing everything I could to find acreage. And I got lucky. I got a wonderful piece of property at the end, which is even more lucky because on the other side is just more fields for plowing and planting and everything else. But when I moved out there, I will say, you know, that was the intent, was everything that was part of the covenants was it was 10 acres, you know, you can't be subdividing down. And I have 5 kids, and my 5 kids have, for the last 9 years, you know, been going to schools up in Lakeland, but I watched we talk about the roads and stuff. I watched the road, just our little driveway that's privately owned, and it's just deteriorating because of all the traffic, and we only have, 7, 8 houses out there on that land, and it's just deteriorating. It's just big enough for one car. And it's down by my place, it's basically just gravel now and potholes and really bad. And but that's just part of life, I understand. But I look at the traffic, and I know that I've been listening to them say, people saying, well, the cities have done things. Cities is after money. Plain and simple, they're after money. More property tax equals more money in their coffers that they can spend. And they're not looking at the traffic study there. They don't really care. I know this because one of my sons actually was in an accident on Hayden, in the corner of Hayden and Meyer. It's during the morning hours and the evening hours. The sunset during certain times of the year is coming straight down that road. You cannot see. It is impossible to see. You have to, it's almost like you're having to do it blindly. They need to do a traffic study there. We've been saying that for the last 9 years, but now that Hayden Avenue is being widened, or not Hayden, 41 is being widened, more and more people are using Meyer to get up to Rathdrum. I know this because I work in Spokane. And when I come home, I don't ever want to be on 41 because you have to sit and wait for, basically 10 light cycles before you get to turn to even come down on Prairie or Hayden. And so I cut over on Meyer and come up on Meyer because I live off of Meyer. But people do the exact same thing. I watch them day in and day out, driving north, driving south. And it's really, the traffic congestion has gotten so bad, and especially here in the last 2 years, especially when 41 is being worked on. And if there's any issues on 41, then pretty much you can, like when they were shutting down for the railroad stuff a couple months ago, it was backed up over a half mile. And now for us, it's just, and I say this because I have teenage drivers now. They didn't used to be, but now they're teenage drivers and college age drivers and everything else. And the more traffic that we have, the more concern I have. And then especially at the beginning of this road is, our driveway, Orchard Avenue, is not meant for a thoroughfare for cars. I don't know if it was meant for, 2 houses, let alone the 8 houses or 7 houses that we have on there. It was not meant for that. And the traffic right now is deteriorating that road really extremely bad. And this is just a money grab. That's all it is. We all went out there because we had a dream that we want. I grew up on acreage up in north of Sandpoint, and we had a dream and we wanted to live it. And the roads, the dream, just don't take it away. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any Zoom
No one has zoomed in.
participants? Okay.
Or I take it back, I just see one person. Let's see if they've, give me just a moment. Kirsten. Looks like Kirsten may want to speak. Kirsten, the mic is yours if you'd like to. One more time, there's someone just zoomed in with Kiersten as the name. If you would like to speak, the microphone is open for you.
Okay. Hello, this is Bill White.
Could
I'm at 6951 West Orchard.
was it Bill White? Okay, thank you.
Bill White.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead, you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you. So once again, I'm at 6951 West Orchard. So I'm in the, hold on one second, I'm getting feedback. I gotta shut down part of my feed. Okay, so anyway, I would just like to say that, yeah, I am opposed. And I would just like to kind of reiterate a lot of what they have said about the traffic and the narrow road. Also just the fact that I bought this property in 2007 with the understanding that it was part of the covenants that we couldn't subdivide less than 10 acres. I do know that we had one neighbor out here that one time wanted to subdivide and drop into 2 5s. I don't think they ever actually went to the county with it because after they talked to all the neighbors said they were on the So like I said, once again, I'm just under the belief that, you know, we all bought our places out with the understanding that these are 10-acre parcels, would always be 10-acre parcels. Other than that, like I said, the traffic would be my biggest concern, and I see all the accidents that happen also at Meyer and Hayden, and would highly recommend, you know, a study out there, because I definitely think that would be something for all the traffic out there. And that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, David?
Good.
Okay, then we have time for a rebuttal. Mr. Wickman?
Thank you again, Madam Hearing Examiner Rand Wickman. For the record, I also appreciate the comments of the neighbors and those that have testified on this. I think it's unfortunate that folks have not done a good job, a thorough job of reading their covenants, because quite clearly there is no prohibition on further division of the property. As a matter of fact, the covenants even reference you know, number of livestock you can keep on certain properties, and that even contemplates 5-acre parcels in there. It, you know, gives a number of how many horses you can have on a 5-acre parcel versus a 10-acre parcel or a 20-acre parcel. By the way, I did see the most recent version of the covenants that were in the record that I saw on the project website today is different than the set that I was provided by the applicant. I didn't try and do a comparison to see, but this set says they were amended April 21st, 1997. So I'm going to submit these because I think these are more recent than what Vlad reviewed, but the conclusion I think you'll come to is the same. There's nothing in here that precludes development or precludes further division down to 5-acre parcels. Secondly, I think you know, the issue of the road, and I won't swear to it, but I thought when I looked at this that Orchard Road on the west side of Meyer is actually within a publicly owned right-of-way, a right-of-way that was dedicated to the highway district, but it's not, but it's privately maintained. The road within it is privately maintained. That's not uncommon, but as I recall, that's the situation. That's neither here nor there. That's just what I recall it being. And so, again, this property would, you know, has access to it for 2 lots, and I suspect that continues in a development scenario. Again, unless the highway district says that you know, we need to have access for the other 2 parcels that we need to access onto Orchard, I would expect new parcels would access directly onto Meyer. And I also believe, it sticks in the back of my head, that the owner told me they actually have an approach permit on, I believe, the north parcel on, you know, for Meyer Road, onto Meyer Road already. And so that's already been issued. Again, my memory could be faulty, but that's what I recall. All that, of course, is stuff that, you know, we sort out as part of a subdivision request and isn't particularly relevant here at the zone change. There was some comment about, you know, the motives of the owner there, and while the existing owners may have bought their property as the home that they want to live in forever, my client did not. You know, he purchased this as investment property. I think he intended to live out there at one point in time, and may still. But his purchasing it as an investment is no less legal, and it's no less noble than purchasing it to live there forever and ever. And so, you know, that shouldn't be a knock on my client. It just, we all have different reasons why we buy and sell property. There's nothing wrong with trying to make an investment and make a little money on it. That's how America got to be America. Other than that, I guess just one additional thought on the traffic study. You know, we could certainly do a traffic study, but you've got an existing, from what the neighbors say, you've got an existing problem there now. My guy has not subdivided this property yet, and we've got an existing, or perception of an existing problem. We could do a traffic study, and that traffic study is going to say that that road serves at a level of service A, B, or C, probably, and that addition of, even if we add the prior case, addition of 5 additional lots or whatever to the traffic flow here will not have a significant impact on traffic in the area. I will guarantee you that that's what the traffic study is going to say, because we've all seen dozens and dozens of traffic studies, and this, you know, this level of additional input, these additional lots, do not make a discernible impact on the roadways. And so there may be a condition where some safety improvements are necessary. They're necessary right now. You don't get to hang that on my clients. You know, that's not how the process works. There may be some safety improvements that are necessary from the existing traffic. I don't know that to be the case, but again, that all gets flushed out as part of the subdivision process. And so, again, we request that you give deference to the agencies that have not expressed any concerns with this, and we request a favorable recommendation. I will submit this set of CC&Rs, which I think is the most current one, and if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Thanks,
Thank you.
Fran.
1003.
Can we make one correction on the actual ownership of the property, the road? Orchard Avenue?
It's not provided for, but I will have staff validate that to the extent that they can into the.
Vlad, can you comment on that? Did you hear the question?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you have knowledge, or can you get knowledge about the status of Orchard Road? Is it publicly owned and privately maintained, or privately owned, privately maintained?
Well, I think you raise a good question, and it's a clear-cut response. It's a private road that is not under the jurisdiction of the highway district maintenance. Whether or not there are any guidelines within the CC&Rs for the maintenance of that road, I don't know, but it is not under the highway district review. However, I want to make it very clear that the improvements on that road that may or may not be required should the development occur in these parcels will be based on the guidelines of a subsequent subdivision application. The zone change request does not have any guidelines for the assessment of the improvements that may or may not be necessary should the application come forward. So I think that question is pretty clear cut. It's a private road, not under the jurisdiction of the highway district for maintenance purposes, but the improvements of that will be reviewed under a subsequent application of a minor subdivision if that does come forward.
Thank you, Vlad. Rand, do you
Just briefly, a copy of the plat is in the county's record. It will show on that plat whether that road has been, whether that right-of-way has been dedicated to the highway district. And so that's in the record.
It's not, he just told you that.
You can look at that. You can look at that.
Okay.
Staff will be able to provide that for you.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing tonight for case number ZON 20-0005. Thank you to everyone for your attendance and input.